All right, everyone, welcome to Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news from Twitter, the daily fail, meme review, software releases, hardware releases, and the websites by plebs. Joining us today, fellow toxic Bitcoiner, Uploading Logic, or Clown World USA. Before he joins in on the fun with us, though, you know where we're going. We're going to the numbers.
Number time! Sponsored by... Number Time is brought to you by Bitcoin 2022. It's going to be the biggest Bitcoin conference ever. Take advantage of the link down below for 10% off.
All right, everyone. At the time of this recording, the block height is 707,921. The Bitcoin price, 62,990. Chain rewrite days, 786. Total public lightning capacity, 3,143.9. Sats per dollar or Moscow time, 1588. And blocks to the halvening, 132,079. All right, so the lightning capacity is definitely holding its own. Definitely holding its own. But you know what? I wanted to draw attention today to something a little bit different. Hopefully I didn't just randomly scroll by it. No, I didn't. Did not scroll by it. Here we go. The future supply. Okay? Future supply, I think, is really interesting. Take a look at those dates, right? Look at that, 99.9% of the supply will be issued, essentially, by January 29th, 2048. So it's kind of weird to think about, you know, what things are going to be like in 2048, because I couldn't tell you, you know, when I was 20 years old or 16 years old that things would be the way they are today. So, you know, like it's just really crazy. And also there's that there's the movie that Swan made, and in the futurescape it takes place in 2048. So I'm kind of assuming that they took that because we're at 99.9% total supply. I don't know. That's issued. I don't know. What do you ever think of that? You ever look at that metric?
Man, so I have looked at that metric, but not anytime recently. And what I find fascinating, and I think we talk about this a lot, right? But it's always useful to visualize things, right? Because one thing is like talking about it. One thing is when you see a visual. And you kind of compare this with the monetary system we have today. You know, the Fed has a meeting every Wednesday, and they tell you the monetary policy. But they have no idea what the monetary policy is going to be. You know, a year from now, they have no idea. They're kind of winging at this point. They're just like, money printer, go burr, hope the system doesn't collapse. But I don't think as a species, we've ever dealt with something like Bitcoin, right? Something that, you know, the monetary policy all the way, I think the last date was 2100 something. We'll all be long dead by then, right? So
2139.
2139. So that, I think, is absolutely insane. And that kind of explains, you know, Bitcoin's performance, right? The fastest asset to get to $1 trillion with no sitting CEO, no employees, right? Like, you know, one of the best performing assets the last decade, right? And that kind of explains why, right? In a world where, you know, everyone's just trying to hold their value, Bitcoin does it, man. And it wears it on its chest so proudly. It's like, look, the next supply shock is in, you know, 2025. 2024. That's the next halving. It is what it is. You like it or you don't like it. And then you compare that with the analog world, the fiat world, right? And it's just so archaic, bro. It's really archaic. You're looking at that stuff and you're like, how could you take these people seriously? And at the same time, it's like, that was the best solution. But then Bitcoin was born in 2009. It changes everything. And these dinosaurs are literally still in denial. Not only are they in denial, they're still screaming and saying, Bitcoin is not a money, right? Like, it's so funny. And I get it. It disintermediates them, just like the internet has disintermediated so many other things, right? Like, you know, like, it's just, it's like, I'll just say this. We're really privileged to live through something like this. Like, this is going to go down in history books. Like, we're living through it, so we don't see, you know, the significance of it, right? Because we're in the flux. But, man, I'm sure looking back, this is going to be absolutely insane.
Man, I totally agree. It's so people just don't really get the implications. We say this over and over again, right? We don't know what we don't know. Uploading logic.
Right.
Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I saw a great meme today. The Bitcoiner is holding 1 Bitcoin, and the millionaire says, nice. And then 20 years later, they're looking at this citadel on the hill. Wow, I think he has 1 Bitcoin.
Oh,
2040.
I think that's the Lena, the Sheesh one.
And I think that's Adam Back's wife. I just found out.
No. It's Mal's wife.
Okay. Okay.
Samson works with Adam.
Okay. I saw somebody. Yeah. Great.
No, but I know what you're talking about. Hopefully I could find it so I could put in the episode. But yeah, man,
Right.
it's absolutely crazy. And I think the world still doesn't know that what absolute scarcity is and what the implications of absolute scarcity are. But for the decade that we have known, holy cow. Anyways, Phil,
Right.
It's time for
The Daily Fail, brought to you by... The Daily Fail is brought to you by Amber app. Easiest way to buy Bitcoin. Amber's the easiest way to invest in Bitcoin. Check out the link down below in the show notes. And now a message from our friend.
Amber, the smart way to stack sat.
So look, we got tagged on, we get tagged on so many fails. I say this over and over again, and I appreciate it so much. Thank you guys. Like, you answered, everybody, the Bitcoiners answer the call. Okay, so today we got tagged in a few of them, okay? And we're gonna dive into two very not so interesting projects. But here we go. First tag, got MJ_Bitcoin who tagged us in this. When do people learn DeFi is just wrecked? I guess it's just the natural selection process in full force. What's he talking about? Rari Capital Deo. This morning, there was an isolated incident of Oracle. So hold on a second. We're going to flash here very, very quickly. This is the wrecked leaderboard. And I want to just read those words again. There was an isolated incident of Oracle manipulation in the Fuse pool. Doesn't even matter whose pool it was. There's websites dedicated to all these fails. These are not isolated incidents. Anyways, the attacker manipulated the price of VUSD, one of the assets, on Uniswap version 3. I don't think it makes a difference what version it is. Once the attacker adjusted the price of VUSD, the pool was drained. Oh my gosh, who would have thought? All right, here we go. Time to save some grace. Fuse is a powerful platform with unlimited customizability. Oh, that's great. I'm sure that makes everybody feel great who lost their money in this. Even if the core protocol is sound, and this is where we play the blame game and we point the finger to someone else other than us, oracles and other features can make it insecure when used improperly, like in low liquidity environments. Because we don't want to take responsibility. We want to play pretend and act like we're money and be the big boys and girls, but we're making sure that we're not really responsible. It's your fault. It's your fault for trusting us. We continue to urge caution to pool creators to ensure that Uniswap version 3 pools have enough liquidity to prevent future exploits like this. Okay. Let's go take a look at this website. Fuse. Fuse is the first truly open interest rate protocol. Lend, borrow, create, isolated garbage, blah, blah, blah. Okay, wonderful. All right, let's scroll all the way to the bottom. Look what we have here. Oh my gosh. They've been audited. Well, that's fantastic. Let's take a look at who audited them. Keep in mind, we're just talking about how funds were drained from their pool. So, oh look. They were audited by QuantStamp. Great. QuantStamp also audited Alpha Finance, which was rug pulled for $37.5 million. Like, I mean, really? Like, they make this way too easy for us. Way too easy for us. Look, before I go to the next one, do you want to riff on this, or do you want me to just dive into the next one? Because the next one's almost as stupid in a different way.
Dude,
so
that was highly enjoyable. Keep going, Phil. Keep going. Keep
right,
going.
Uploading logic. Do you want to say anything before I move on? Or you want me to...
Yes, great. Keep going.
Okay. I don't know, like sometimes like people just because like
It's,
I know I lose my thought. Like I'll want to say something and then like Nico will make another good point and then it's gone.
I want to keep my thoughts because I want to see the cherry on top. And you haven't put the cherry on top. You made the dessert, but you haven't finished it, Phil. You haven't finished it.
Get ready. Here we go. We're about to dive into, and I do apologize. I don't remember who tagged us in this. So when you see the show tomorrow, if you want to drop your name and let me know you tagged me, I'll gladly retweet and give you props. Yep, that's right. I'm one of those people, who respects what people do for us. Anyways, so I digress and continue. Let's take a look at the standard.io. I'm actually kind of ultra disappointed about this one for real, and you'll find out why in a sec.
Wait, he smiles. Go up.
Yeah, no, of course he does. Yeah, no, there's another face that comes on. This is a creepy website. Anyways,
that's fucking weird, dude. That is
he's
so
smiling
scary,
he's stealing
man.
your money. Look, I'm taking your money. Bye. It's all good. All right, here we go. All right, let's dive into this thing. This is pretty interesting. I thought. All right, what is the Standard Protocol? Standard Protocol is a decentralized finance infrastructure project that enables users to generate stable cryptocurrencies by utilizing asset-backed loans without intermediaries. That's right, people just get to generate their own stable coins. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong, everybody could just generate their own shit coins on ERC anyways right now, so, okay. The protocol focuses on physical and crypto assets as collateral and will be entirely managed by the community of standard token holders. I want you to keep in mind, this community of standard token holders, there's DeFi, right? We threw all the good words in this. Let's continue. It's good words. All right. This is the first of their batch of whatever this is. The SUR is the world's first algorithmic stablecoin that is backed by fungible assets and soft pegged to the euro. It is generated by leveraging a variety of fungible assets as collateral in a smart contract. Okay. SUR is the first. The DAO will be rolling out many more fiat soft pegs over time, with the goal of having a stable coin for every fiat currency in the world. All right, I'll just continue. I don't even know what I just read to you guys, to be honest. Okay? I just read to you that there's a bunch of shit coins that are pegged to the current government-issued shit coins, which will be representations of shit coins. So, let's continue. A decentralized, this is the standard DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization responsible for governing and growing the ecosystem. But wait, this is DeFi. This is supposed to be decentralized finance. This is all of a sudden there's an organization responsible for governing and growing the ecosystem? Okay, whatever. Making key decisions using smart voting mechanisms and prediction markets. All right. The standard token, right? Because of course, right? Like, so you have these stable coins that everyone creates. Just try to keep track of this with me. So you have these basket of shit coins that you've created based on this basket of shit coins, but now there is the shit coin for the platform. It's a totally different one. It's just different, okay? Here we go. The standard token holders can participate in the governance system of the standard protocol. Standard token holders' benefits are rewards for actively participating in voting, discount on stability fee, access to liquidated assets under spot price. That kind of sounds like some proof of stake type shit. Anyways, I digress, I'm just a close-minded, toxic Bitcoiner, so I don't really know much. Anyways, let's check out the team. And actually, I've spoken to this person, and they've been on a Bitcoin podcast. Joshua Skagala. He's an award-winning entrepreneur who has co-founded several technology startups, including Vaultoro. Okay, so Vaultoro is essentially a way to peg your Bitcoin to gold. Okay? Anyways, this is just... It's just cringe, right? Because obviously, if I scroll down, there's... I'm assuming maybe he's related, maybe not. But if you take a look, you know, he's what is it here? He's been in the blockchain and precious metal space for more than 7 years as committed CEO and CTO. So don't get me wrong. These guys run Vaultoro. Now they're starting a shitcoin that is backed by other pegs. I don't see how this in any way is decentralized or anything but the same exact scam that everybody's putting together. Anyways, talking about the same scams as everyone else, here we go. This is going to be interesting. Check out this chart. This will look very familiar. The pre-market distribution. A total amount of 100 million standard tokens is available to angel investors and institutional investment funds. Sounds like a pre-mine. But I digress. Let's take a look at this chart. Phase 1. The pre-market distribution, 100 million. Phase 2. The private distribution. Phase 3, the bag holder distribution. Now, take a look at the left of this chart. You'll see these people, these groups. This is their own little crap thing. See this? That's the pre-mine. This is the stuff, okay, this pre-market distribution. These are all different levels of bag holder. This is most likely going to get very rich off this scam, most likely going to do really well off this scam, going to buy the bags of this scam. Okay, and all the while, this left-hand side is what controls it all. It's not the standard. I'm just not buying it.
Man, the fact you gotta give it. I'm gonna keep reiterating what I've been saying. You gotta give it to the shitcoiners and the names. They're really good at the names. But the thing that I want you guys to focus on, of course, right? So much noise there. First of all, what type of fucking website has moving images on? That's scary, bro. You know, all the images in the bottom, they're like bobbleheads. You know, and the one at the top's like.
It's creepy.
Like the fucking, you know, the clown from It, like,
Yeah.
it's fucking scary. No, but seriously, the thing that I want you guys to focus on is there's a CEO, meaning there's a weak link, meaning there's a human being to go after, right? And again, that's the weakest link, right? And you know, you contrast that with Bitcoin. Where's the Bitcoin CEO? There is none, right? You know, and this goes back to what I was saying during the numbers, right? About separating the monetary policy away from human beings, and the fact that without a CEO, without employees, Bitcoin was the best performing asset, and I continue to believe it's going to be, because it's a paradigm shift, right? And you see with this, right? All the fiat credentials, you know, I have a master's degree in this, you have a master's degree in that. You know, if you've been around Twitter long enough, I think that just because you have a master's degree in economics, Steve Hanke, you know, it really means you don't know anything, right? So I'm seeing all those credentials, man, and it's like, so what? But again, it's a very intricate way, a very sophisticated way to convince you to give up your fiat so they could buy more Bitcoin, or give up your shitcoin so they could buy more Bitcoin, or give up your Bitcoin so they could just keep your Bitcoin, right? That's what all these complex scams do, right? And I think that they're trying to, you know, inspire confidence in you by having that fancy website. But the only critique, right? Only critique I have is the bobbleheads. That shit's fucking scary. It's not necessary. Okay, you could still inspire confidence without the bobbling of the heads and the smiling. You know, that's a little weird. Anyways, what does our guest think? Uploading logic.
I wonder.
Upload some logic, bro.
Yeah.
Upload some logic.
Well, so the kids are doing the squid token. I think these guys are going after big bag hold. Big. They want those older boomers sitting on millions of dollars. Bewilder them with detail.
Squid token, that's hilarious.
Yeah, these guys are going after the older boomers.
Yeah, exactly.
I would
They're
agree with
selling
that.
them something that's familiar to them.
Mm-hmm. We
And
are
hold on.
the standard.
Before we go, but hold on, okay. Before we move on, I completely even forgot that I had gone to dug into their white paper, and just to show you how everything is always trying to be an affinity scam. Okay, take a look at this. Keep in mind the crap that I just read to you, okay, which I don't expect you to store in your minds. Delete it as quickly as you can. Fill it with something better, okay. Problems worth solving. The central banks around the world print limitless amounts of paper currencies every year. In 2020 alone, the U.S. released the biggest stimulus to date, giving away USD 1.9 trillion of newly printed cash. In Europe, the central bank implemented a negative interest rate, forcing people to spend, not save. This is an affinity scam. This is pretending to be something that it's not. It's centralized garbage. It's, no joke, it's the same, it's pretty much the same crap as Ethereum, except some other different crap backed by other shitcoins. It doesn't matter. It's all just pretending. All of it is pretending to do what Bitcoin simply does. Anyways, sorry.
No, I think you're spot on, and I love how they say problems worth solving. Bitcoin already solved that problem, right? But there again, it's like what you always say. It's like they're trying to create a problem in your head so they can conveniently be the ones to solve it, right? So so that you could part away from your Bitcoin. But yeah, man, it's a total scam, and I'm sure you guys already know. But if you're new to the channel, now you know. But anyways, Phil, it's time for the Daily Meme Review, sponsored by... The Meme Review is brought to you by Citadel 21. It's the best Bitcoin cultural zine. Get yourself a physical copy. There's only 1,000 made per volume. Look how cool the artwork is. Citadel21.com! Alright, everybody, the meme for today. Meme Review is brought... The first one is brought to us by Full Metal Hodl 2, to second account. Moment of silence for Pirate Beach Bum. He got taken out. Long live Pirate Beach Bum 2. So...
I have to follow Full Metal Hodl too. I didn't realize.
So he's back, and the stonk to floor has a mini heart attack when fake Plan B accounts follow him. Got pretty wrecked in April. Plan B's on-chain does not equal Plan B's stock to flow model. Thinks the model is intact no matter what. Tungsten cubes are... Oh, that's funny. Listens to each pod appearance twice. Not once, twice. Talks like he understands but doesn't really get either. Notifications for Woo and Clemente too. That's absolutely... And those are the Hopium accounts, you know? Nothing wrong nothing wrong with Hopium, but those are Hopium accounts. Anyways, moving on to the next one. And it's Pub Lord Hodl, right? We like to cover two sides, you know? This one's a more Plan B friendly. Did somebody just hear a knock at the door? Sorry, I'm a little late, guys. Did somebody order 63,000 Bitcoin? Bitcoin Twitter. Feeling itself absolutely hilarious. So, you know the drill, guys. Like, sometimes there's pictures that do a really good job. They convey a message. They could be memes. You could see them as meme, but sometimes they're just pictures. But anyways, this goes back to what we've been saying, right? Is how the government, the state, the media always needs a boogeyman, right? And these Time Magazine articles really kind of show that. You know, in the 70s, it was the world getting colder, you know, the cooling of America, the big freeze. Then it was the ozone layer. Then it's the Arctic meltdown. Then it was global warming. Now it's climate change. How, you know, generic is that statement? But it kind of shows, right? The weather is going to do its thing. We are on a giant rock orbiting a giant fireball around space. You know, like, human beings are little ants. Like, you can't really, you know, it is what it is. I'm not denying climate change, but what I'm trying to say is that, like, you know, the image speaks for itself. I think there always needs to be a boogeyman to justify giving up more control to the state, to the government, right? To the giant organizations. And the last but not least, right, you know, the Fed, we save the economy, the purchasing power, the consumer, $11.50 for milk. Highly accurate. Loved all those memes. And for those memes, Phil, I'm going to give it a very special score of my first capture card. It's an Elgato capture card. And you use it to capture yourself playing video games or anything that's really HDMI, right? It's my first one. I have had many more since then. But anyways, Phil, what are you going to give it?
Man, that's a very commendable score. Look, loved all those memes. Fantastic stuff. Especially that Fed one. That is just absolutely great and totally accurate. And you know what? For those who know, I'm giving it this USB dog.
Ooh.
Yeah, so if you know...
Now you know. Shout out Labrahuddle. Labrahuddle's a USB. And what is our guess? What would you give those memes?
Yeah, great memes. I'm going to give those the nail file.
Nail file.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, cool. You can
hooded
never you can never go wrong with the nail file. So some awesome scores for some awesome memes. Anyways, guys, we want to know, do you agree with our scores? Do you disagree? Let us know down in the comments. And join our Telegram group. Give us some memes to review. Give us a Bitcoin meme review. But anyways, Phil, it's time for the Daily News, sponsored by... The Daily News is brought to you by Cloaks. Get yourself a 3D printed Bitcoin grenade. It blows up and its freedom comes out. It's awesome. No, it really doesn't blow up. Anyways, cryptocloaks.com.
When you look at we've got a screen up, you probably can't see. We got Bitcoin, we have Ether, we have Dogecoin at the bottom. There's another Shiba Inu there. The two of those are worth 80 billion. I know that you probably think that Bitcoin is here to stay. Do you think all of these different crypto assets are real and here to stay, or is there something to be concerned with? And do we need oversight so that people aren't left holding the bag for some of these things, whether they do or not? I'm not predicting one way or another.
I do think that Bitcoin is here to stay, and I think a lot of the others are not. The fact that Bitcoin is fully decentralized and that some of these others were issued by a person or an entity that kept a large block of the coin for themselves and then issued others to participate means they look more like a security than a commodity.
Okay, so this is another Simply Bitcoin We Told You So moment, right? We've been telling you these exact words for I don't know how long. You have Gary Gensler, right? Literally verbatim saying, the crypto industry isn't going to survive without regulation, right? So you have a lot of signs from officials, right? You have Elizabeth Warren and her shadowy supercoder, all that rhetoric. And that rhetoric is just going to keep intensifying the more inflation starts to get out of control. People want to exit the system. And the more investors continue to get hurt, right? We've dedicated a portion of the show to just showing you rug pulls, right? So all those millions of dollars is people getting wrecked. Now, here's the thing about regulation, okay? If you stay within Bitcoin, it can't be regulated. In fact, if you were able to regulate it, then it would defeat the whole purpose of Bitcoin, right? So what we've been saying, right, and I think Cynthia Lummis kind of touched upon this when she said decentralized, is that if it's not sufficiently decentralized, meaning if, in the case of Ethereum, right, where a lot of their nodes, I think the majority of the nodes are run on Amazon Web Services, right? Like, if the government is going to go after the lowest hanging fruit, and if they can go after it, they will go after it because, I hate using this word, but cryptos are really a threat to their system. Now, the thing with Bitcoin is that it's reached a level of decentralization, and only Bitcoin, that even if they wanted to go after it, they physically couldn't, right? Not to mention the incentives, right? And I'll get to the incentives in a little bit. The incentives of Bitcoin are such that even with one of the most powerful countries in the world banning it, the hash rate recovered on its own because the incentives were there, right, for more people to jump on and start mining Bitcoin because it was profitable, right? With the other shitcoins, there is none. And like as the case with Ethereum, for example, let's talk about that for a second. They just kind of changed their thing where now they have a burn rate. That looks like a human interacting with the monetary policy so that the inflation rate or the burn rate of Ethereum would get lower, so it would artificially pump up the price. If there's a human there, that means you can go after it. A government can go after it. Now, not to mention the Ethereum pre-mine, which is what Cynthia Lummis was talking about, right? They issued a huge portion of Ethereum that was bought in a pre-sale, and then they dumped the rest on investors. The same thing with XRP, right? XRP, the majority of XRP is held by Ripple. Think about that for a second. So for Ripple just to fund its operations, it puts a little bit of money in marketing, right? And then it just starts to dump the rest on, on people so that they could fund the company and the founders could enrich themselves, essentially. Now, if you compare that with Bitcoin, Bitcoin had a virgin birth, which we've talked about a lot on the show. And essentially what that means is when Satoshi invented Bitcoin, he had no idea it was going to have value. It was born out of an experiment, and that experiment happened to be successful. And the more successful it became, Satoshi knew that he had to disappear. And that's exactly what he did, right? So again, it's very different than all the other shitcoins that were created after the fact, and the founders knew from the very beginning, right, that shitcoin was going to have value, right? Anyways, what are your guys' thoughts, Phil?
I don't even know. I honestly, are you kidding me? I mean, don't get me wrong. I have to give props, right, to, I think his name is Brian on Squawkbox. I think his name is Brian. I have to give him props. At least he understands, right, that these are total crap. So that kind of matters. But you know what? I want to touch on what you talked about with Ethereum, right? Okay, because so a lot of people sit there and say, well, look, they're burning millions of tokens. Okay, so what makes you think? So first of all, there's no cap on Ethereum, right? As we've said before, and there's no way to tell what the circulating supply is accurately on Ethereum.
And by the way, I think that's on purpose. By the way, I think
that's of course. Purpose. But I think you're right that it is. But not only that. So as much as they can introduce burn, and not only that, but they can also introduce, obviously, they can punish the miners, right? So they can somehow there's centralized entities that can make all these decisions. This is not money. Mm-hmm. This is a playground. It's a huge scam, okay? Cynthia Lummis is like a beacon of light, okay, in a very dark, dim place surrounded by just totally poorly incentivized individuals, for real. And it's just like, oh my gosh, it's so cringe. The fact that they even show this other garbage on the same screen as Bitcoin. So this is one thing that took me a while to understand, right, is that, you see, when you give these scams a platform, right, when you sit there and talk about their virtues, okay, and don't explain the whole picture of it, it lends credibility to it. So when you put a scam next to Bitcoin and say, look, it's like that, all of a sudden it lends credibility to it. The credibility of Bitcoin gets lent to this piece of garbage, okay? And then other people who, quote unquote, missed out on Bitcoin, they come over and they're like, oh my gosh, look, it's like Bitcoin, but it's not. It's what Nico just said. These people are keeping the lights on. You are funding. All you're doing is funding a company. Mm-hmm. Plain and simple. You are not funding freedom money. You're not funding a monetary network. You are funding a corporation or a foundation to keep the lights on.
Correct.
Right.
Anyways.
What do you think? Uploading logic.
Cynthia, she reminds me the states are beginning to assert their sovereign rights, and they're going to adopt the strongest it's Bitcoin. In Washington D.C., they're going to not be able to really do a whole lot against Bitcoin. So, and they're going to go after like you say, these other coins that are the pretenders. So
the lowest hanging fruit, and it's actually fascinating that you say that, because we've said that many times on the show that just like the marijuana industry, Bitcoin, we feel, is going to become legal tender on a state level before it becomes legal tender on a federal level, and that is because the federal government has the most to lose, meaning the swamp in DC, because they're the main benefactors of the fiat dollar. The Federal Reserve is in DC. And think about it, like, I'm sure that you guys have seen some very interesting things by the US government in the last 2 years. I'll leave it at that. Why do you think that is, right? And we say this so many times, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Why is there so much power in DC? That's where the money spigot is. So
Right.
if you want to get close to the money spigot, you're like DC. And think about it. The incentives don't align with the rest of the country. They align. These people in DC are working for their own self-interest, which don't benefit everybody else. The Bitcoin network is different. Everybody working for their self-interest actually makes the Bitcoin network stronger. And let me show you a couple examples of that. And I was talking a little bit about this when we were talking about Cynthia Lummis, about how the incentive was there. And even with a strong country like China banning Bitcoin and banning Bitcoin mining, the incentive was going to attract other countries. And you're seeing exactly that, right? You saw, I don't know if you saw, but now you saw this announcement by Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz proposes Senate resolution to require DC merchants, vending machines, and gift shops to accept Bitcoin. Why is Ted Cruz doing this? Because Bitcoin is becoming a major part of Texas's economy. So he's watching out for his own best interest, right? Which helps Bitcoin, right? Now, if I'm going to go back to when we were covering the infrastructure bill, that was a whole debacle. And I think a lot of people paid attention to Lummis and how they wanted to do an amendment. Not that many people noticed that Ted Cruz offered an amendment as well. His amendment struck the Bitcoin crypto tax completely out of the infrastructure bill altogether. Why is Ted Cruz doing this? It's not out of the goodness of his heart. He's paying attention to his pockets, right? Anyways, moving on. It's not only Ted Cruz, and I'm going to kind of contrast that to what we're going to cover in a sec, right? But anyways, getting to the article, President Bukele, El Salvador, to use Bitcoin profits to build 20 schools. Bitcoin has been legal tender for 30 days, and they could already build 20 schools. Do you know how absolutely crazy that is? Now compare that with the IMF loans. Compare that with that, right? Anyways, Phil?
Drugs and criminals, Nico. Okay?
That's what
drugs and criminals, okay?
That's what Steve Hanke.
They're not building schools, man. They're not building schools. You're misunderstanding. That's code word for drugs and criminals.
Drugs and criminals. Anyway,
okay.
President of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, has announced the nation will build 20 new schools with Bitcoin profits. The funds come from the surplus of the Salvadorian Trust for the Adoption of Bitcoin, which is currently enjoying all-time highs at above the $60,000 price mark. So what does that mean? That means that the trust is supposed to stay at a fixed dollar amount. But all of a sudden, if the fixed dollar amount is actually higher than, I think it was 100 million, I pop that up if I'm wrong. But if they're holding Bitcoin, right, it's a couple $1 million over that $100 million amount. This is the power of Bitcoin, and this is the power of the incentives, right? And that's why you see Ted Cruz saying that. That's why you see Nayib Bukele saying that. That's why you have all these politicians in South America trying to make Bitcoin legal tender, because they're seeing this. And now it's very easy to ignore that now because there's a lot of mainstream media propaganda, right? And there's a lot of, fake, I hate using that word, but misinformation news, right? But you can only hide that for so long. But it's not only El Salvador, right? It looks like other countries are doing it as well. Singapore, for the people that don't know, is a very, very wealthy and successful country in Asia, right? So the fact that they're saying this is kind of a big deal. And it says, and this is Bloomberg, right? This is the fiat, mainstream media of the fiat mainstream media. Singapore has grand ambitions to become a global Bitcoin and shitcoin hub. Singapore is seeking to cement itself as a key player for cryptocurrency. Related businesses as financial centers around the world grapple with approaches to handle one of the fastest growing areas of finance. We think the best approach is to not clamp down or ban these things. Now contrast that with countries that ban it. They're going to have fun staying poor, and the countries and states, Texas and Florida, very bullish on those states, are going to enjoy the benefits of Bitcoin and hopefully not get too wrecked on shitcoins, said Ravi Menon, managing director of the Monetary Authority of Singapore, which regulates banks and financial firms. Now, contrast that with Yellen, because they really, what the hell are you guys doing, right? And you see this on the other side of the world. And part of the benefit of Bitcoin is that the friction is almost zero, right? The friction is the price that you pay for fees. But if you could sell billions of dollars, if you could send billions of dollars for pennies on the dollar, I think the friction is really minimal. You'll just get up and move to the place that treats you best. So the leverage that the United States used to have, with you have to be in the United States to, to do business there, to take advantage of that country, it's no longer as relevant as it used to be, right? And I think that a lot of politicians in this country, a lot of politicians around the world are starting to notice. Nayib Bukele, Ted Cruz, Cynthia Lummis, Singapore, Ukraine, Hungary. I think that's, there's so many countries that are noticing this. And I just want to make one last point. The revolution of this, right, is going to happen in countries that least benefit from the legacy financial system. That's really where you're going to see the action, right? And the countries that most benefit from the legacy financial system, like the United States, like the UK, like the European Union, are going to try to fight tooth and nail to keep the power of the money printer. They're going to fail, but the transition process is not going to be very pretty. Phil?
I'm just like, I'm in awe. Like that's all there is to it. I'm completely in shock with what's going on.
That's absolutely crazy. Upload Clown World USA. What are your thoughts?
The petrodollar system's starting to crumble. The Saudis are shopping their oil to China and Russia. Russia's out of dollars, so it's happening. You're right.
It's a slow death, but that doesn't mean that the vampires don't come out of the caves and try to fight this. And you have Steve Hanke, our favorite, Phil. Bitcoin is not a reliable currency.
What?
Hold on a second. Hold on, I think I read that wrong. President El Salvador to use Bitcoin profits to build 20 schools. Hold on, let me read that. Let me read that again. Bitcoin is not a reliable currency. Could the dollar do that? Am I missing something, Phil? Could the dollar do that? Anyways, this is the argument that he tries to make. With price fluctuations by the second, merchants should not be forced to accept it as payment. Oh, it's the fluctuations. It doesn't matter that it's going up. It's the fluctuations. So you have two choices, really. You have the dollar that, is slowly losing value over time. Not so slowly anymore, but it was slow. It was a slow bleed. Or you have Bitcoin that is volatile, but the volatility is constantly going up. Right? What would you rather hold? Anyways, this is just one of the reasons behind the massive sell-off in El Salvador's bonds. Now let's talk about bonds for a second.
Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah, let's talk about bonds. Okay,
such an idiot.
So bonds are essentially how governments justify the printing of money, and a bond is essentially a 30-year prompt 30-year. Think about how fucking crazy that is. If you hold a bond, right, and I'll pull up the sheet really quick. Here is the percentage of holding a 30-year treasury bond, right? And here's
Why's that chart going down?
Here's the interest rate. And I zoomed out on purpose because if you only look at the 5-year mark, it's not that crazy. But if you zoom out, right, this is a shitcoin. In 1987, the interest rate was 10%, 9%. Today, it's 9.5%. Now, what Steve Hanke doesn't want you to know is that if you look at the treasury interest rate for all of other countries as well, it's actually in the negative now. So by you holding a treasury bill, you're actually losing value. And this, you're actually losing value as well because of inflation. So when Steve Hanke is arguing about this, that is a shitcoin. Bonds are shitcoins. Okay, and Bitcoin is exposing that. And in the world before, when there wasn't Bitcoin, bonds essentially was the surest thing that you could hold. A bond from the U.S. government, a bond from a country in Europe, it was a sure thing. But after Bitcoin, why would you hold this crap? Why would you hold this crap? And let me show you more. I'm not done yet. Okay, check this out. So. Think about what the dollar is and what it represents. The full faith of the U.S. government. Let's talk about the full faith of the U.S. government for just a sec, okay? Treasury Secretary says spending bills will be anti-inflationary, lowering import costs. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen told CNBC that the administration's infrastructure spending proposal, it says it right here, spending proposal will lower inflation at a time when it's increasing rapidly. Speaking from home, here's the signal. I want you to pay attention to this. She insisted that what this package will do is lower some of the most important costs, what they pay for in healthcare, for childcare. It's anti-inflationary in that sense as well. So it's really anti-inflationary because you're outsourcing the cost to the government to pay for certain healthcare things, but at the same time, the dollars that you earn are constantly losing value. If you don't believe me, they know this as well, right? Check this out. I apologize. Check this out. Walter Bloomberg, White House says wages have gone up faster than inflation. So again, propaganda. They want you to believe that what you're seeing at the pump, what you're seeing as the cost of food, isn't really there. Isn't really there. And to make matters worse, just to finish it up, Phil, this is the total assets that are held by major banks. What does this mean? This is the mechanism in which banks use to print money. They issue treasury bills, and you know who buys them? They do.
The Fed.
They buy it themselves. So not only are they issuing money, the mechanism in which they issue money, they just buy it. So they issue the money, they issue the treasury bills, and the Fed's like, yeah, I'll buy those up too. And let me know if you think this is going to end anytime soon, or this is going to blow up. I'll let you be the judge. Check this out. The QE experiment, specifically in the United States, and Europe had already started, right? But in the United States, it started in the 2008 financial crisis, and it keeps going. We've been showing you this chart for a long time, but we haven't showed you, as it compares to the other central banks, look at the rate at which they're printing money. So when you see Steve Hanke talking shit about bonds, he's talking shit about a shitcoin, and El Salvador is holding the soundest money that was ever created that has already paid back to buy schools without issuing any type of debt. So what the fuck does it matter if El Salvador's bonds are that? What matters is that El Salvador is holding 1,100 Bitcoin. That's what matters. And bonds, I suspect, we don't know for sure, it's not going to end very well. Look at the rate that they're printing. Look at the amount of lies that they're telling. They're telling you that if this $3 trillion infrastructure bill passes, they're spending $3 trillion more, adding it to the Fed balance sheet. That is going to lower inflation. These people have absolutely lost their minds. And the only way that all these bureaucrats know how to fix problems is to print more money. The problem is that printing more money this time isn't going to fix it. They've been kicking the can down the road. We're down the road. There is no more road to kick the can down. So this is the problem that they're in. Ron Paul agrees. He calls it the oh man, I forget. I said it yesterday.
Crack up boom?
Crack up boom, right? There we go. So is this the end of the fiat experiment? We like to think so. Monies don't last forever. This is a 50-year-old system. How do you protect yourself from this? Buy yourself some Bitcoin. Look at the good that it's done El Salvador. Look at the good that it's done for you and Phil and I, frankly. Look at the good that it's done for individuals around you. Not only is getting off the fiat standard good for you monetarily, it's also good for your psychology. When you're saving in a money that is not being stolen, debased from you, it actually makes you feel better, believe it or not. Phil?
I think what people like Janet Yellen and Steve Hanke are proving to us is that we simply need to stop employing people in those positions, okay, that, you know, like psych patients from a geriatric ward, right?
They're psychopaths.
They're psychopaths. No, but this is what I mean. Like, you know, like these people should not be anywhere near these types of decisions. Okay? And you can see that, like, that passage that you read from Janet Yellen, that made no sense at all in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see how anybody actually believes that. And then on top of that, the piece that you, like, the title that you read about the, you know, the White House telling you that, like, wages went up. So look, how about this? You know, how about I can tell you for a fact, okay, that the average, you know, let's say the average person employed in a Fortune 500 company's salary definitely did not, their increase did not exceed this year's. What was the percentage, Nico? 5%?
No. That's what
From
they
them?
tell you.
No,
People,
but I
the word
wanna
on the
go by
street
their
is
numbers.
15 to 20%. They're the Fed metric, which is the most rigged one, it's at 4% if you round up, right? So did your salary go up 4% this year, Phil?
Or 15%? Exactly, right? How many people, I can tell you, the majority of people don't get a 5% raise. So almost every single person that has a pretty decent job this year most likely did not beat inflation.
But do
you
you
didn't
see,
beat it.
But do
So
you
they're
see,
nuts.
Do you see the lies? The lies in that system. It's everybody. It's Steve Hanke. It's Janet Yellen. They're leaking up the lifeboat. They're like, it's like, you don't see that. It's not existent. Yeah. So if we print more money, inflation will actually go down. Steve Hanke saying and then you contrast that with what you see in El Salvador, and El Salvador's only been holding Bitcoin for 30 days, and that they're able to do what they do. You see the difference, Phil? You see literally a country that now is holding the truth, right? Because Bitcoin is connected to the truth by proof of work, and you see a system that's held up by lies. You see the difference? It's absolute. It's a stark difference, bro. Anyways, Clown World USA, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I wonder what they'll say. You know, China's holding $1 trillion in U.S. Treasury bonds, and they start to dump those things. Japan's already throttled back, and I wonder what Steve Hanke will say. And they could do it aggressively. And the Fed will print money and buy their own bonds, I guess, right?
That's what they've
That's
been
exactly
doing.
it.
Yeah,
That's exactly it. That's what's scary. And people sit there and, like, they applaud this behavior because nobody knows any better.
Yeah. 99% of the people walking around they don't understand anything about monetary policy. If you say fiat, they don't know what you're talking about.
And you know what? It's actually tragic that is the case because, Bitcoiners have, because the writing's on the wall. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. These people, the people that don't hold some type of sound money, and of course you guys know our favorite is Bitcoin, they're going to get so wrecked if and when this inflation thing happens. Like, it's going to be such a catastrophe for them because, unfortunately, a lot of people in the West don't know what inflation is. If you talk to someone in a Latin American country or a country in Asia that has experienced inflation, they already don't trust the government. Okay, so you pitch them Bitcoin, they're like, yeah. You pitch someone Bitcoin here, they're like, why would I use that, not PayPal? Why would I use that? It's like, you're about to learn, my friend, and that's not a very good lesson to learn, right? Having the money in your bank account, it stays the same, but the things that you could purchase with that said money, it starts to evaporate, and you see a mass migration of people trying to flee and put their money in sound assets. You're already seeing that in real estate. You're already seeing that in the stock market. We're in the middle of a pandemic, but the stock market is making an all-time high week after week. The real estate market, houses are making an all-time high week after week. Why do you think that is? People are fleeing fiat to put their money in assets so it doesn't devaluate. And you're seeing this in mass. I don't know when this is going to hit Main Street, but it's going to be ugly. But there is hope, and that hope is Bitcoin. But anyways, Phil, there was a software release. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Software releases. Software releases are brought to you by CipherSafe. Protects your Bitcoin from disaster. Stainless steel products to help you protect your Bitcoin from various modes of failure. Check it out down below in the show notes. All right, everyone, we've got Simple Bitcoin Wallet. It's not simply Bitcoin Wallet. It's not our wallet. It's just the Simple Bitcoin Wallet version 2.2.15.1. Needs more numbers. Anyways, down below in the show notes, check it out.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. All right, guys, that was our show. Before we go, I want to give a shout out to our awesome guests. You can go give them a follow. Clown World USA, aka Uploading Logic on the Twitter. And of course, guys, if you enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. And of course, if you want to continue hearing the catastrophic fails from these central bankers and the Bitcoin news from the pleb perspective, definitely consider subscribing. And we'll see you tomorrow, guys, for another episode of Simply Bitcoin.
They don't understand why we're here, but they will.